The Miraculous Ones by Rafael Ramos, read by Rafael Ramos. Chapter 4. The Exile. Sedibus's jaw clenched as he recorded his findings, the 4 vid screens still open on his side of the room. Miraculous and Turiel 4. Shamsiel and Satariel 7. Armoros and Tamiel 6. Ramiel and Zachiel 9. He glanced over at Miranda's side, with her 4 screens glowing with the aerial images of the assigned patrol areas of the other teams, and looked at the large screen, showing the running table of their calculations as Miranda recorded her numbers. Azazel and Sariel, 10. Ananiel and Bezaleel, 3. Chazakiel and Ezekiel, 5. Daniel and Yomiel, 8. Miranda swore under her breath. Shit. When Sedibus had returned from Barakel and Cocabil and relayed what had happened to that doomed team, Miranda had refused to believe what Barakel had said, that all of the Watchers were fallen. I said to be careful, Miranda had said, wary of the Neville energy still emanating from Sedibus like heat from a feverish patient. Barakel tricked you with that false image, so how can we trust what he said about the other Watchers? Sedibus had replied, we can check out the other teams as we look for Semyaza. That'll take a while, not if we survey all of them at the same time. Sedibus, flushed with energy, had plenty of power to send up and activate the 8 probes and vid screens. We can see for ourselves. Even being careful to keep their surveillance stealthy, Sedibus and Miranda completed their survey quickly, in one productive day. Just as Barakel predicted, the other Watcher teams had discovered the same new source of extraordinary wondrous power. With Barakel's children included in the calculation, Barakel and Coqueville, 6. Earth had 58 Nephilim, 58 native-born hybrid creatures, unauthorized and dangerous and fallen. In eerie mimicry, the other teams' areas also had technological advancements well beyond the local humans' understanding, were contained with force fields constructed of Nephil energy, and, to Sedibus's dismay, the angelic components of the Nephilim came from their respective celestial engineer fathers. In a few areas, the humans were nearly wiped out, similar to Barakel and Coqueville's, when the Sentry became subordinate to the celestial engineer, both protecting their Nephilim. In other areas, the humans fought to survive, allied with the Sentry against the celestial engineer and his Nephilim, locked in a futile civil war since the ultimate loser would still be the humans, as ephemeral and fragile as they would always be. The remaining were in a precarious balance of celestial engineer and Sentry co-ruling lands of pampered yet enslaved humans and iron-willed Nephilim overseers. Only Miranda and Sedibus's area, Nephil-free and its human intact, remained. Miranda, Sedibus began. Take the vids down, she interrupted, before they find out we're watching. Sedibus assented with one small hand gesture. The last vestige of Nephil energy exhausted, he felt empty, tired, and jittery. Since Semyaza isn't with the other teams, Miranda observed, he's either here or still in the Eden zone. She glanced at Sedibus. Are you any condition to travel? No, and neither are you. What do you mean by that? Sedibus walked towards her, stopped, and placed his hands on her shoulders. You're in no condition, since once you find Semyaza, you'll want to kill him. Miranda began to tremble in anger. Even though you can't, since angels, even fallen ones, can't die. She gritted her teeth. I'd still want to fucking try. I know, Sedibus sighed. Me too. Miranda shook her head, stepped forward, and wrapped her arms around Sedibus's waist. Surprised, Sedibus adjusted his arms, and both stood in an embrace with Miranda's chin resting on Sedibus's shoulder. We trusted him, Sedibus, she said. We fell because we trusted him. Yes, he agreed. And how fucked up is that? Miranda tilted her head onto his shoulder and began to cry. Shit, I hate crying, she murmured between sobs. Always the soldier, Sedibus said. She gave a short snort of laughter. After a bit, she dried her eyes on his shoulder and leaned back, violet eyes looking at gray eyes. Thank you. For what? For not getting mad when I didn't believe you at first and then letting me cry like a little girl. Sedibus shrugged. You're still my teammate. Being fallen doesn't change that. Still, thanks. Sedibus stepped back, patting Miranda's arm, and walked to his side of the room. I know you want to set out immediately, but it's nighttime now, and I need to recover. Right. Sorry. Sedibus waved away her apology. He stripped down, settled into his cot, and closed his eyes. You heard her strip down and lay down in her cot as well. After a short silence, Miranda said, Sedibus? I never told you this, but Ariel himself had requested that you be my partner when we were assigned Earthside. Sedibus opened his eyes. What? Why? Because I had rejoiced when Lightbearer and the other traitors lost the war, like most of us who won. Truth be told, I actually relished fighting during the war, crushing my enemies, flooding the ground with their ichor. Miranda's eyes flashed with the memory, but then became saddened. I'm not proud of that. Miranda said, her voice sounding soft and bittersweet. Because both you and Ariel still felt that we lost, because we had lost our brethren. You and Ariel still grieved on their behalf. She paused. I didn't understand why back then. She paused again. I understand now. What do you understand? Like what you said earlier, that being fallen doesn't change that connection, that relationship. She smiled at Sedibus, uncertain. That love. Miranda, we didn't fall like Lightbearer and his ilk, who only felt hate. We fell because we cared too much. She looked at the ceiling. We still care too much, just like the humans. Sedibus remained silent, listening. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm not so naive to think that we'll definitely find a way back to heaven, but now that I know I'm fallen, I'm glad you're by my side. Miranda flinched. God, that's so selfish. Maybe, Sedibus said, but if so, then I'm selfish too. He paused. And that's why I'll never let what happened to the other Sentry members ever happen to you. Sedibus, get some rest, you old soldier, he interrupted. He closed his eyes. We have a busy day ahead of us tomorrow. Copy. Found him. Where? Guess. You don't mean yes. Are you serious? Yes. Son of a bitch. Do you need backup? Things are quiet here. No. I can take care of it. Okay, Miranda said. But be careful. Will do. Sedibus turned off his comm. Samyaza. He touched down. What the hell happened to you? With the natural amphitheater below him, Sedibus saw before him a massive spiraling structure made of rare earth metals and iron, reaching high into the sky. On the very bottom stood the angel of Samyaza, although Sedibus barely recognized him. Gone were the strong, imposing features of the Watcher's commanding officer and a leader of celestial engineers. Now he was a gaunt skeletal figure, his gnarled hands on the foundation of the rising tower, sweat pouring down on a face twisted in pain. Assessing both angel and tower, Sedibus took a step back as he read the massive amount of Samyaza's energy stored in the tower, witnessing Samyaza pushing himself beyond reason to transfer more into the structure. Only when Sedibus called out, Samyaza, did he break the connection, as he stumbled back, startled, and fell to the ground exhausted. Go away, Samyaza yelled as he struggled to stand up. I don't need your goddamn accusations or insults. That old bastard, Sedibus remembered Miracle calling him. Wait, you heard what we said in the comm all this time? Why the hell didn't you answer? What? To waste my time on power answering to insubordination? Samyaza replied. He stood up, his legs wobbly and buckling underneath him. Everyone thinks I made a mistake. I am proving I did not. How? Sedibus stared at Samyaza and at the structure. With this? I just need to break the communications blackout to explain to Central. A transmitter powerful enough will do. I built this. I charted this up. He stumbled to the tower. What? I can fix this misunderstanding. He grinned manically. This will work. I know this will work. And I can explain everything. Samyaza, I'm close to being done. I know it. He reached out his hands towards the base of the tower again. Sedibus intervened, grabbing gaunt wrists. Samyaza! He shook his head. It's no use. Don't you see? We're fallen. No! Samyaza screeched, and pushed Sedibus away, still having enough strength in his withered body. Sedibus stood aside, a helpless witness to an angel gone insane. But the tower, supercharged with Samyaza's accumulated power, was dangerous in itself, a bomb waiting to explode with an unknown radius of destruction. Still, even in his diminished state, Samyaza was difficult to subdue. Damn it, Samyaza, Sedibus murmured. He reached up from within his wing and took out Baracle's canister of Nephil energy, which he hadn't planned to bring, but did at Miranda's insistence. Take that with you, she had said. Why? Just in case you need a tactical advantage. So, Sedibus thought. Here goes nothing. He popped open the canister, lobbed it at Samyaza, and flew backwards as fast as he could. As he expected, Samyaza's weakened state couldn't handle that much power all at once, and the potent Nephil energy overwhelmed his faculties, rendering him unconscious. What he did not expect was the excess blowback hitting the tower and setting off explosive force. Ah! He cried out, having no time at all to take cover. Faster than the speed of light, the archangels Uriel and Gabriel descended from their posts. Spreading their wings upward, they redirected the expanding explosive blast of Samyaza's tower straight into the sky, which broke free from the Earth's atmosphere and harmlessly commingled with the planet's magnetic field. Sedibus stared at the sheer size and power of the two archangels, for Uriel and Gabriel had adjusted their proportions enough to enter the Earth's atmosphere safely, but still looking like giants compared to the human-sized creatures like himself and Samyaza. All that remained of the tower was a deep yet surprisingly narrow blast crater, which resembled a sinkhole, with Samyaza collapsed beside it. With the danger past, Gabriel returned to his position above the earth, leaving Uriel, who resized so that he was more of human proportions, albeit still a figure towering over Sedibus, who tried not to cower as the archangel approached him. Stand at attention, Setibus, Uriel said. Setibus flinched, long unused to the protocol of the chain of command, and then straightened up. Sir, what you did was out of line. Semyaza is still your commanding officer. Setibus clenched his fist but didn't respond. As such, you should have trusted that I and the other archangels, as his superior officers, would have taken care of him. Yes, we were aware of Semyaza's mental breakdown due to his fallen state, and we had made the appropriate accommodations. Semyaza's tower would never have been completed. We made sure of that. We would have kept him occupied, sequestered here in the Eden Zone, indefinitely because of his obsession to take matters in his own hands. Therefore, your current actions were both unwanted and unnecessary. Permission to ask a question, sir. Permission granted. What is my punishment for dereliction of duty, sir? Uriel gave a curt wave, as if swatting Setibus' question like a pesky fly. You are punished enough being sequestered here on this planet, as are all of your fellow watchers. Setibus stared, surprised. Uriel looked at the crater and the unconscious Semyaza. You celestial engineers, what is with you lot, assuming you can fix humanity when you weren't even involved in humanity's creation in the first place? Setibus remained silent, his eyes forward. However, we archangels have noticed that you, of all of your fellow engineers, haven't succumbed to the same error in regards to the female humans. Setibus twitched. You were watching, sir? Only recently, as an extension of investigating the effects of Semyaza's condition, thus the fact that you, of all of the celestial engineers of the Watchers, have not made that error is under consideration, as Central decides the fate of fallen Earth. The fate of fallen Earth, sir? Yes. Whether to activate the reboot or not. What? Setibus looked at Uriel, alarmed. Ah, so you are familiar with what the reboot is? Yes, sir. Setibus tried not to let his panic show. It means a reset to the original default programming of the Earth, including sentient creatures. But wouldn't that essentially wipe out any creature existing on Earth after Adam and Eve's creation? The senior members of Central are only debating its merits for now. Uriel replied, not answering Setibus' question. Meanwhile, no one in Central is allowed to contact Earth, ever. Earth is ground zero for fallen creation, and Central can't risk it spreading, especially with Heaven still recovering from the war. Do you understand me, Setibus? Setibus swallowed hard and nodded. Yes, sir, he said, even though he thought, oh God, does this reboot all depend on me? Semyaza will remain secured here. Now I'll return you to your assigned area. Uriel made a twisting motion with his hand, opening a portal. Do not succumb to that error, Setibus. With a slight push of his hand, he sent the portal towards Setibus, who, in barely a blink of an eye, found himself returned next to his and Miranda's chosen roost tree. I'm outside, Setibus said in his calm. Copy. Miranda emerged from the roots of the tree as an ethereal shimmer, and then materialized before Setibus. Hey, you're embodied. How did you get here so fast? And what did you do about Semyaza? Also, are you okay? Setibus sat down heavily on the ground, his hands on his head, as he tried to control his breathing. Miranda, I can't... Words. He looked at her. You're not only my teammate, but you're my best friend in this whole damn world, right? Setibus, why? Because I know that sending is really invasive, especially between persons who aren't close, but this stuff in my head... I want you to know what happened, but talking... Miranda placed a hand on Setibus' shoulder. If you want my consent, you have it. And yes, we are more than just teammates. Thank you. Then Setibus closed his eyes and sent his memory of everything that had happened in the Eden Zone to Miranda. When he opened his eyes, he saw Miranda seated next to him, her hand still resting on Setibus' shoulder, but she was staring at him, stunned. That isn't right, she said. She coughed and said vocally, I mean what Uriel said, ordering you not to... Miranda shook her head angry. What kind of angel does he think you are? Setibus looked at her sadly. A fallen one. He gently removed her hand from his shoulder. But it was all Semyaza's fault, sure. Just like it was all Lightbearer's fault that Eve fell, or that it was Eve's fault that Adam fell. He sighed. Free will, remember? We all could have said no to Semyaza, but we didn't. He stood up. I didn't. Still. Miranda stood up as well. I think Uriel is an arrogant asshole. Miranda, she yelled into the sky. You hear me, Uriel? Yeah, you do. Setibus stared at her. Are you crazy? No, that would be Semyaza. She shrugged. We're already fallen, so what are the archangels going to do? Make us more fallen? But the way I see it, Miranda interrupted, we may be fallen, but we haven't been instantly condemned to hell, so we're in the same state as the humans. Maybe because we've been with the humans too long. Maybe we're going native. And no, she held up her hand, stopping Setibus' protest. I don't mean like Barakel and the other celestial engineers. But it wouldn't make sense that Central is still debating what to do with us if our fallenness is absolute. So let's assume it's not. But I'm still the wild card, Miranda. I'm the last one who hasn't totally lost his mind like some Yaza and the other engineers. But I'm nothing special. I could be a ticking bomb of batshit crazy for all you know. Hey! She thumped his chest. Can you stop sounding like a hysterical human for 1 minute? Ow, that hurt. Good. She exhaled loudly. Look, according to Uriel, our area is the least fallen of all the Watchers. So if we just keep doing what we've been doing, As for what may or may not happen in the future, there's no point worrying about it. But if you're still paranoid, I'll keep an eye on you, and I'll beat your ass back into the common sense if I need to. Okay? Sedibus sighed. Okay. Good. She switched from material to ethereal. It's gotten too quiet, so I'm going on patrol. She looked away. And I need the distraction, since I'll never see Ariel again. She took off, flying high into the sky. Miranda, do you want me to come along? No. I need to be alone right now. And get out of my head, Sedibus. Sedibus received her sending, including the hurt, anger, and sadness behind her unspoken words. Understood. Sorry. He pulled back, giving her mind privacy, and didn't follow after her. He returned to the roost room and dropped into his cot, realizing how exhausted he was. Laying there, allowing the tree's life force slowly recharge him, Sedibus listed all the times he messed up. Agreeing with Samya's expanded directive, being too obvious with his powers with the humans, accepting Barakal's contraband Nephilim energy battery, using it against Samyaza, and shit, Sedibus said out loud. Of course, that was the risk of sending, for everything in the creature's mind and soul at that moment would have been communicated. So Miranda would know now, the obvious reason that Sedibus was never tempted by any human female, ever. But then there was the secret that Miranda had kept hidden within her, that she revealed, most likely by accident, what Ariel had whispered to her in the containment room all that time ago. That isn't right, she had sent before she left for patrol, which meant all sorts of things. Sedibus groaned and fought the urge to run away. Don't be a damn coward, he said out loud. Just wait and explain first. Yeah, just wait. Miranda didn't return that night, nor the next day, nor the next. After a week, Sedibus's worry began to override his horrified embarrassment, and he decided to contact Miranda after one more night. When he awoke in the morning, he saw Miranda sitting on the floor, next to his cot. Ah! She chuckled, but her eyes were somber. Let's talk topside. Okay. Instead, at the bottom of the tree, the two fallen Watchers emerged among the treetop, above the forest canopy. There, sitting side by side, they watched the sunrise. Once the sky turned from rosy dawn to the bright blue of morning, Miranda turned to Sedibus. Sorry for the radio silence. Sedibus stared forward. No need to apologize. You said you needed to be alone, so... He trailed off. Heh. Alone. I ended up having to put down a skirmish at the northwest perimeter. Some of the more ambitious so-called princes discovered the energy field of Barakal and were using it as a weapon to push their rivals against. Nasty way to dispatch your enemies. She shook her head. I didn't want to deal with the God King nonsense, so I embodied myself as a heretofore unknown general, took over a couple of companies, and made them force the others away from the perimeter. She paused. Some of the humans were needlessly stubborn, so there were collateral damage. She shrugged. Sedibus looked at her. Why didn't you call in for help? No need. These were just low-tech military maneuvers in a low-stakes campaign. Not really a challenge to a veteran sentry member like me. Remember, I was an officer in the war in heaven. She flexed her wrist. It was actually over in 2 days. The remaining days were to determine terms of surrender, and I helped install a new ruler that was amenable to those terms. Actually, Miranda chuckled, I suppose I'm the covert ruler, while the overt one is just a puppet. Either way, part of the terms was that the ruler would marry a daughter of the losing sovereign. Fortunately, with the puppet, that wasn't me. Clever, Sedibus replied. But why the covert proceedings? This area doesn't have the technological advances as the others, so the only strategic defense we can do, just in case the other humans, Watchers, and Nephilim overtake our boundaries, is to have a unified political and military force. And since I can't contaminate this area's human culture with ideas too advanced for them to understand, I have to work within the military patriarchal system that is these humans' traditions by advancing as this Lord General persona. Miranda sighed. It's slow going, but it should be enough to maintain this area's integrity, at least in the eyes of the archangels, and hopefully central. Sedibus took in the information in silence. You plan everything out? Yes. As I said, the skirmish itself only took 2 days, so the other days, in between installing the ruler and getting him married off, I had some time on my hands. Miranda looked at Sedibus. It's because you're going away, aren't you? Miranda, You're right, Setibus, she interrupted. You are my best friend. On this entire planet, no creature is as close to me as you. But you being my lover? Setibus twitched at the word. You should have told me about Ariel. I know. She looked up. Typical Celestial Engineer arrogance, eh? Wanting to fix every conceivable problem? He knew that it'd be lonely away from him, so he made sure a colleague who's as close to him characterized would be my partner. But telling you that it would be okay if you and I were to sleep together? I mean, who does that? One who cares deeply for his beloved and his trusted colleague. Shocking, isn't it? She smiled, obviously thinking of a private memory, and then started to cry. I miss him, Setibus. Setibus opened his arms, and Miranda leaned in, burying her head in his chest. She laughed through her tears. How come any time we hug, I'm crying? I don't know. Maybe that's my special talent, Setibus said. I can make hardened warriors cry just with the force of a hug. Heh. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, Setibus, that I don't feel the same that you feel for me. It's not fair. He sighed. Yeah, well, now that's all cleared up, I should go. You got full control of everything here, so it's obvious you don't need me. And between how I feel for you and that standing order by Uriel over my head, it's best I go as far away from humans as possible. He started to move away. Wait. She had that look that Setibus had witnessed all that time ago in the containment room when she was privately debating with herself before she called out to Ariel. This will probably be the last time I will be as Miranda, as I'll have to live in the field, embedded with the humans as a new person. So I want to give you something before you leave. What? She reached up to his face, pulled it close to her, and kissed him long and deep. Let's go back inside. The next day, Setibus rose from the large mat that was in the center of the room and pulled on his gear. He turned back and kneeled down. Like Ariel before, he kissed Miranda's forehead and her lips. Thank you. Violet eyes met gray eyes for one last time. Goodbye, and be careful. All that was a long, long time ago. After leaving the coastal mountain and the plain filled with people who invaded the solitude of his exile in his first, and up to that point only, home, Setibus sought for a place that ensured that no human would ever find him. Flying high, almost on the edge of space, he surveyed all of the lands of Earth and saw that the clash and wills between Watchers, humans, and Nephilim had only gotten worse since his initial sojourn from his and Miranda's area. Not my problem, he thought, and he plunged into the sea. He swam down and far until he reached an island system with above-ground caves that could only be reached by swimming through uncomplicated undersea passages. There, he thought. No one can reach this. Imagine his surprise when, one day, a young woman's body bobbed up and washed ashore into his home cave. He stared, seeing her lifeless body. He jumped, nearly scared to death, not that he could die, of course, when her body convulsed and retched ungodly amounts of seawater. She remained unconscious, but was very much still alive. He hardly wore his gear anymore. He hardly ever left his cave anymore. But he remembered everything in his past. And when he carefully approached the woman, he stopped when he saw her face. Is this Cora? She suddenly opened her eyes, grabbed Setibus's arm, and sent. Found you!